Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's event held in conjunction with our local enterprise office. For the opening remarks, I want to call on our president, Andrea Malloy. Andrea.
Good morning, and thank you all for joining us for this morning's Fingal Chamber event. As the largest business organisation in the region, Fingal Chamber helps businesses of all sizes to grow and develop by providing members with opportunities to influence policy, connect with businesses and professionals, train their workforce, promote their business and trade internationally. The Chamber is committed to promoting local economic development and enhancing the economic prosperity and quality of life across the region, whilst ensuring local businesses have a competitive advantage. The primary services the Chamber offers to members include advocacy and lobbying support, where we liaise with government departments, engage with policymakers and the media, and directly represent on industry and community committees. The Chamber also coordinates upskilling and training programmes. This is provided through the Fingal Chamber SkillNet, where we operate and promote subsidised training determined by business needs, customised and delivered locally. Of course, we also have our networking and events programme, where we host government and key stakeholder briefings, a business networking series, and a variety of social events. The Fingal Chamber website also has an exclusive members information centre. This allows members to network online, profile their business, share news updates, events, job vacancies, and special offers with the business community. Last March, like many, our operations were forced to change, but the Chamber quickly adapted to working with COVID-19. As the Chamber staff moved seamlessly to working virtually for most of our services, we reacted to the new reality by changing our focus to helping businesses survive. Looking ahead, we've lots happening over the coming months. If you're already a Chamber member, I would encourage you to check out our upcoming activities on the Fingal Chamber website. If you're not yet a Chamber member, you can find out more information online at fingalchamber.ie or by contacting a member of the team to find out how membership can benefit your business specifically. Today, we are collaborating with the local enterprise office in Fingal, and we're delighted that Oisín and his team have invited us to be part of their fantastic events programme. I hope you find today's event useful, and on behalf of the Chamber and myself, I wish you and your business all the best. Thank you, and I'll hand you back now to Anthony Cooney.
Thanks, Andrea. I'd like to welcome Oisín Geoghegan, who's the head of enterprise and local enterprise office here at Fingal, to say some remarks.
Thank you, Anthony, and President Andrea Malloy. And look at just from the perspective of the local enterprise office, we're delighted to again be able to run Local Enterprise Week this year. It is obviously extraordinary times we're in, and we were only just talking just before we went live there a moment ago about Local Enterprise Week last year. And I know a lot of you will remember that that week's events, and the Chamber event ran in the Grand Hotel in Malahide, and there was a fantastic turnout for that. And it was a terrific event, and we were just saying it was the last time that many of us shook anybody's hand outside of our immediate family since then. So we're in extraordinarily difficult times now, and very different times. It's very challenging for businesses. We're acutely aware of that. In the local enterprise office, we have we want to make sure that all of the services that are on offer, that have always been on offer to business, continue to be provided. And that is why obviously we moved everything online when COVID struck straight after the Local Enterprise Week last year. And we want to make sure that it's business as usual in as much as it possibly can be, because I think businesses need help and assistance and support now more than ever before. And certainly that is reflected in the array of different services that are available both through the local enterprise office and indeed other states, agencies that are involved in the provision of business support services. This week we have over 200 events occurring throughout the country. In Fingal, actually, we've over 2,000 people booked into the various events, which is really good. And I think it's one of the few positives, if you like, of the COVID landscape, is that it kind of makes these things a little bit more accessible, more easy to get to. You can dial into these types of events. So, you know, I'm delighted so many booked this event this morning, and indeed all of the other events occurring during Local Enterprise Week. We did select a series of topics and speakers and trainers that we felt were really relevant to the current challenges facing businesses. So, I mean, I'm sure most of you will have perused the schedule of events that are occurring, but there's lots still to come. We're only halfway through the week now, so I would encourage you to continue to book them. We're keeping the bookings open as long as possible. Look at the last year has been extraordinary. We in the local enterprise office, I hope we've done our part anyway to not just keep the show on the road, but really to help to stimulate in as much as we can our local economy here in Fingal. I mean, just to give you an indication, you know, in 2019, we were delighted to have provided funding of just over €1 million, €1,007,000 in 2019. In 2020, that figure grew to almost €4 million. That went into directly assisting businesses. That's just in grant assistance to businesses. And we assisted 1,340 businesses in that period. So that has been an extremely important lifeline, you know, helping businesses to stay afloat, to keep the show on the road and to keep trading. And it went into things like feasibility grants, priming grants, expansion grants, trading online vouchers. We funded 750 businesses, many of whom I'm sure are tuned in here this morning, with a small intervention, €2,500 towards moving your business online. But there's also been things like exporters grants and various other initiatives, including some special initiatives for COVID-19, Micro Enterprise Assistance Fund and Client Stimulus Fund. So yeah, over nearly €4 million through the local enterprise office. That does not include, by the way, the 28+ million that went through the county council in the Restart grant, obviously, and all of the various other different government schemes that are around. That has played an extremely important part, I think, in helping to keep our national economy afloat as well as our local economy. In addition to that, you know, the last year has been incredibly isolating. I'm in my own home at the moment, even though it might not look it from the backdrop that's behind me. And most of us are operating that way these days. So obviously things are very, very different, but we've still managed to really beef up a lot of the other services. So really important lifelines to small businesses and to people operating their own business from home. It can be very, very isolating. So providing networking services, and I know the Chamber runs some excellent, has run a series of excellent events over the past year as well. But that really provides a really good lifeline to business owner managers. And I think a lot of business owner managers have used the opportunity to upskill themselves and to hopefully think more strategically about their business and prepare for the other side of COVID, which hopefully will be here sooner rather than later. Other things like mentoring service, all that is available online now, and we did over 1,090 mentoring assignments in 2020, which was again quite extraordinary. And lastly, I suppose the other one that I was looking at earlier on this morning is how many people did the Start Your Own Business program in 2020, and there were very, very few. For about 2 to 3 months after COVID hit, very few. There was no interest in Start Your Own Business program. Nobody wanted to set up their business. Very, very few people obviously did. However, if you look at the overall figure of the numbers of people who went through the Start Your Own Business program in 2020, it was nearly double those who did the Start Your Own Business program in 2019. So, you know, we're really hopeful that a lot of those, the 329 people who went through that program, will go on to set up their own business. Indeed, some are in the process of it now. Look, I won't. I'll hand you back to Anthony now, but just I might just flag something if I may. We have announced that there's a new podcast coming about, and it's been released this Friday. It's called Fingal Business Podcast, and we'll be launching it on Friday at lunchtime. The first one is featuring Catherine Fulvio. We have 7 entrepreneurs lined up, 1 per week for the next 7 weeks from the 5th of March until the 16th of April, and we're going to be publishing these each week, so do look out for that. And there's lots more coming down the track. So the best of luck to all of your business. I hope to see you at a couple of the other events during Local Enterprise Week. Hand you back now to Anthony. Thank you.
Thanks, Sohini, for that good summary in the Local Enterprise Office and the magnificent work you've done, in particular over the last year or so, where it's been very trying for all businesses. Now I'd like to introduce our panelists. This morning we've got, what I'll do is I'll introduce you, and then I'll ask you to maybe afterwards, after I do the 3 introductions, tell us something about you and your business. I've Caroline Keeling here as the CEO of Keelings. We've got Jock Jordan, who's the Vice President of One4all, and we have Sohini, who's the CEO and founder of Empeal. So indeed, listen, we'd like to thank you sincerely for attending this morning and giving us the benefit of your insight. So maybe if I start with you, Caroline, you might tell us a bit about Keelings and your role within Keelings.
Okay, thank you for inviting me here today. It's great to be here. I suppose Keeling, the family business, started in 1926. So we've seen a lot of ups and downs over the years. Our main focus is growing fresh produce. And also, I think in the 70s, we started traveling around the world and finding growers that we liked and could work with and partner with, and sort of bringing product into Ireland. So I think my dad was one of the first people to bring kiwis into Ireland in '84 or something like that, from New Zealand. So, you know, the business has sort of built up over the generations, each adding new things, etc. So at this stage now, we're sort of in the full range of fresh produce, supplying retailers, but also food service. So hopefully some of your local takeaways we've supplied, etc. At the moment. We also sell in the UK and in Europe. We're now supplying, I think, in about 26 different countries. And through buying a farm in Costa Rica last February, which wasn't the best of timing, a pineapple farm, we are supplying Walmart in the States. So it's sort of getting slightly bigger year by year. By the time we hit 100, we'll hopefully get even slightly bigger between now and then. And then myself, I'm third generation. I'm the CEO of the group, and I suppose my life changed dramatically. I used to be on a plane every week nearly. I think Ryanair was my second seat that I used to do an awful lot of work in. But I was back and forth all the time, and now I haven't been on a plane, I think, for 55 weeks. So it's been a big change, and probably one of the nice things for me is I have a 4-year-old, so I've put him to bed every night for the last 55 weeks. So that's been great. That's been the one silver lining in this.
Excellent. Great. It's good to see that there's an upside to all of this.
You have to find one silver lining, even if it's 10, but that one's nice.
Maybe Sohini, we come to you next.
Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity this morning. We are a digital health company, so I'm the co-founder and CEO of Empeal. We are a digital health company helping people improve their physical and mental health with customized group and individual programs involving nutrition, lifestyle, and behavior change. That's a very high level of what description of what we do. We were set up in 2018, and since then we have thousands of users. We are in our version 4. We are a high potential startup from of Enterprise Ireland, and we have investors in UAE and Ireland as well, and we have users in India and Ireland. Our big plans going forward is we are a very data-driven analytics company, and our algorithms are driven by artificial intelligence. So we want to bring that artificial intelligence into the health and well-being sector, and invest heavily for the next year and develop our product to be more scalable and reach even further globally in the next 12 months. How we are different is we are one of the most comprehensive well-being platform. This is what our users and partners say. And we are also the most customizable platform as well. We understand that a lot of people are already using health and well-being solutions, so we can integrate a lot of solutions that people are existing. So we are not throwing the baby out of the bathwater. So that's how we differentiate ourselves. Last year has been tough for everybody. Our biggest, like we were supposed to start a big insurance project in UAE in March, which got indefinitely delayed. But the silver lining was, I think, at last, 2 things that are high on our agenda became high on other people's agenda as well, which was health and well-being and digitization. So thankfully, we've gone on a good revenue generation during the COVID period. But also, as Caroline said, absolutely the biggest silver lining has been spending time with family more. Although work and life gets blurred in these kind of scenarios, but my son, who's in college, he's doing college from home. We are at least all at home. My dad is at home, so that's a big silver lining.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Sohini. That's great. And I'd like to come to Jock, who's Jock Jordan, who's the Vice President of One4all. Jock, you might give us a summary of you and the business and background to it.
Okay, well, my background is a little bit different. I suppose my career was really rooted in sales and marketing, particularly in the sales organization. And I actually started my career in direct sales, which for those who don't know is door to door. And I really enjoyed that. It sort of knocked the corners off. And I don't think anybody's ever said anything to me since that I haven't heard before, if you know what I mean. So look, yeah, I held a lot of different sales roles, mostly in blue chip organizations, starting with Roundtree Mackintosh, who became Nestle, SmithKline Beecham, it became GlaxoSmithKline. I was country manager for Sony Recording Media and also for Walt Disney Corporation here in Ireland. And then I joined Aer Lingus, a senior role there, and I was head of sales and marketing in Aer Lingus Cargo for a while when I met Michael Dawson, who everybody knows. And after about an hour and a half, I was so impressed with Michael's charisma, his drive, and his vision for his new business that, and he was looking for someone who was commercially minded and used to building sales teams, because his vision wasn't just for a consumer product, it was for a B2B product. And that's where I came in. And so I joined Michael in 2002, May 2002, and we launched the business in September 2002. And I was so committed, I actually remortgaged my house. And for the business, I suppose I felt a bit like I wanted to make a statement. I wanted to make sure that this was the statement I was making was something that this was something I really wanted to do. And I felt a little like Cortez, who landed in the Americas and burnt all his ships behind him. So it was my way of showing that I was serious about this role. And I suppose over the years, Michael and the team, we've grown and grown. I suppose we started small in Fingal. And one thing I do encourage people all the time, as you know, is get involved with your chamber, because we built our business in Fingal around the chamber community, going to every network. I had a table at every network session that was set up by Fingal Chamber, and attended every single one of them, and our business grew. Because if you can't sell locally, sure, how can you have a vision to sell globally? Yeah. So then in 2019, we sold the business to Blackhawk, an American organization, one of the largest payment companies in the world, and that has brought huge benefits to the business. And Michael and Paul Larkin, who was the CFO at the time, exited the business last year, and I took over the helm as vice president just before COVID and just before Brexit. So interesting. I've had an interesting year in my first year as at the helm of the business, I can assure you. So yeah, it's been a really interesting time, but it's been very good for us, because selling our business to such an organization like Blackhawk allows us to stay local. We're still a profit center. We're still very much in charge of our own destination. But we have the benefit of investment, huge investment, to drive the innovation that we started many years ago. And we've used that investment for new products And it's also been a great time for our employees. A number of our employees have taken on senior European roles within the global organization, which is something they couldn't do as a small organization, which has been fantastic. And so there's great opportunities for our employees and for the business generally.
Great. Thanks, Jock. I'm just going to stay with you for a minute. That's all. We won't let you off the hook just yet. Seems you're on a roll since in this year, exiting coronavirus. But and I've come from a sort of commercial background, and I suppose if I asked the question, and one thing about business is that trust and customers trusting people. And if I said to you, who are your typical customer base, and why do you think they would trust you?
Well, I suppose there's a couple of things that you have to get right in business before you can actually go to the market, and the most important thing is having the right people. And we call it one team, and so we've always had a culture within One4all, and it's always been encouraged since the foundation of the company to have the right culture and the right people in the right place doing the right things and focused on what they're doing. And very talented people, and we've always had very talented people over the years. The second thing is excellence in customer service, and that's really, really important, because you're only as good as your last sale. That's always been the way for me. So if you cock it up the first time, you very rarely get a second chance. And if you do get a second chance, you have to get it right that time. So, and then the last thing is be innovative. Being innovative means constantly listening to your customers, because it's your customers who will tell you what they want. So if you might have a great idea and you say, you do your research and there's a niche here, there's the market here, and you want to exploit that market. But once you're in that market, you've got to listen to your customers and you've got to innovate and change your product and grow your product so you can scale your company. Because at the end of the day, if you don't scale your business and innovate, then you're going really nowhere. So that's for me. So the customer is first and foremost, Anthony.
Great, thanks, Jock. Sohini, if I could come to you with the same question, the sort of, your customer sectors that you're in, and why would your customers trust you? What's your unique selling point there?
Answer the easier question first. Sorry, I'll answer the easier question first. Who are our customers? So we're a B2B solution, and our customers are mainly organizations for their employees, although our end users are the individuals. So you can call it a B2, B2C kind of model. So it's organizations, their employees, or insurance companies for their clients and their employees for the employee assistance programs, HR companies providing service of health and well-being, and so on and so forth. Regarding the trust, it is absolutely necessary. Like, this is the only main thing that is necessary for our customers, because we deal with data and we deal with very personal health data. So trust is the main thing that you need from Empeal. Why will they trust us? So the first thing is you can have all the, like, we have the GDPR, we have all the data protection, data mapping. So we are technically quite very sound. So we have to express that to our customers, and most importantly to our users, that their data is not being used in any sort of way which is not desirable. But also, we always put in a face in front of our customer. We are 100% digital solution, but we always have a face. You are never sending email to an info@empeal.com. You're sending email to an actual person, and that actual person is dealing with you. They're talking you through, they're helping you through every day with any issues. Third thing, which Jock mentioned, and absolutely, that's what we think that helped us during the COVID to get into the revenue generation mode. For the first 2 months, we talked to literally 200 people. We were constantly on the phone. We were not selling anything. We were just trying to understand what are their problems. And when I said in the very beginning that we are the most customizable platform, what happened was we listened to people, what their problems were, what their health and well-being needs were. Sometimes it came up that people were struggling with skin care, hair care. These are not typically your nutrition, fitness, sleep, stress management type of solutions. But what we did was, because we are very customizable and we work on an agile way, we actually onboarded skincare, hair care, and stylists on our expert panel, and we started delivering those programs. Even chefs came on board to deliver cooking programs, you know. So listening to your customers, answering their needs, and modifying your solution to suit their needs. But also the data protection is ultimately, it's absolutely necessary for us.
Yeah, thanks, Sohini. And finally, Caroline, if I could ask you.
Yeah, we have, again, like it's a B2B to C in some cases, and sometimes it's just B2B. For us, I think our range of customers are retailers, food service, but in some circumstances, our customers are our competition. We wrote software to run a produce business, and we actually got contacted by one of our competitors in the UK. And I've known this guy for 26 years. We've been competing against each other. And because he trusts us as a company, he's happy that we actually put in the software to run his business. Which is quite a statement of that he feels our business has integrity, which is good. I think what Jock and Sohini was saying about customers, when you understand your customers, when your customers feel listened to and understood, they tend to trust you a lot better. So it is that listening to understand and asking questions of your customers, they generally feel a higher level of trust that you care, that you're interested in them, that you want to deliver for them. The other thing, because we're in produce, it changes with the weather, and it's just so variable that one of the reasons I hope our customers trust us is we will be the first ones there telling them about the problems, telling them about the solutions we want to put in place in order to try and manage this issue, that, you know, we're going to get in front of problems as opposed to they'll be surprised by them. So hopefully that's one of the reasons they trust us, because our industry is quite challenging with weather.
Sure. Great, thanks, Caroline. One of the other the items I'm sure of interest to our listeners here today and those participating in the call, if we stay with you for a second, Caroline, is like state support structures for businesses in general. And do you think there's been anything particularly welcome in the last year or two? And do you reckon that there are any gaps you think could be addressed better, given the turbulent year we've had?
Yeah, like I think it's been quite challenging for the government. They're obviously thinking and creating things on their feet as things happen, and you know what was expected. I think it wasn't expected that the new variant would be as strong as it was and the impact that it had, etc. I think, you know, some of the supports that have come in have been really good. So basically where your turnover has dropped down, and we have food service parts of our business where that, you know, you're at one point we were down 90% on our turnover in one of the businesses, etc. And the supports to keep people connected with your business, etc., have all been very good. I think one of the gaps is there's a lot of businesses where their costs increase dramatically, particularly if you have a high number of staff who have to be on site in order to make sure that they're well protected and safe. Costs went up considerably, and that was pretty much impossible to pass on in certain circumstances. And I think that's going to make a number of businesses vulnerable. You know, they're viable businesses, those costs will come away eventually, but having 18 months to however long of those kind of costs are going to be significantly damaging to some businesses, and there really isn't any supports in place for those.
Okay, thank you. Jock, can I ask you the same question there in relation to, you know, what's happened over the last year or so?
Yeah, I think, look, coronavirus has been bad for business. There's no doubt about it. Look, it is, and the unfortunate thing is it's changing all the time. So we think we're pulling out of something, and then another wave comes along and hits us, and it's really, you know, it's been tough for us. I mean, our business, I suppose, we've had to adapt in many ways as well. So, I mean, our business, like the guys, is we have a B2B business and a B2C business. Our B2B business is based around what we call the power of thank you. So it's about thanking your staff in many different ways. And I suppose we focused on our B2B business during the coronavirus. Has been pretty important to us because a lot of people out there wanted to thank the frontline staff and use their product to do that. In fact, there was a couple, believe it or not, in the west of Ireland. They were from Canada, retired doctors, and they had retired to Canada, but they owned a holiday home in the west of Ireland, which they raffled, and there were 10 euro tickets, and they raffled it for over €1 million, which they wanted to give to everybody on the front line, particularly in hospitals and nursing homes. And the simplest way for them to do it was to give everybody, 14,000 people across the front line in hospitals, to give them all a 30 euro, 40 euro gift card from One4all. So look, there's been many different stories and there's been many different things that have happened. On the B2C side, we've been very fortunate, and the post office network is open, and our other distribution outlets, Tesco's, SuperValues, Circle K, they're all open as well, so people can purchase gift cards. But I suppose the real thing for us has been web sales. What do I think of government supports? I think the government has supported it really, really well. I think the government has done a particularly good job, I must say. And I'm not involved in politics. I don't have any particular affiliations, but I think Micheál Martin has done a really, really good job. But what I would like to see is that I think there's a lot of the information is coming from us from too many different places, and particularly for business. Business likes to know exactly what's happening. We can't run our businesses with a changing environment from week to week. So we really need the government to sit down. We really need the government to draw up a plan as to how we're going to come out of this, step by step, week by week. So what's going to happen? We can see the schools, we can see the focus on education, and and from a political standpoint, that's really important to the government. But from a business standpoint, we need to know, when is retail opening? What retail is going to be opening? When is hospitality opening? When is tourism opening? When are these things happening? And I know it's a changing virus, and things have to be moved from time to time. But we really need a steady plan, step by step, so that we can follow. And then a weekly update, I believe, from the government would be really, really important. Instead of we're being bombarded with numbers of daily this and how many people are in hospital. To be honest with you, it's going over. People are not listening anymore. What we need is a weekly update as to where we are with the virus, and where we are with the vaccination program, and where business is, what business, because we need focus around how business is going to come out of this particular pandemic. Sorry, I'll get down off my high horse now.
No. I'm going to come back to that in a second.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay, and Sohini, so for you in relation to, let's say we talk about the support structures that are there from the government, and are there any gaps that you would see?
Yeah, I have to absolutely congratulate the government, the way they, even from the very start, how quickly they brought in those supports for whether it's the wage subsidy scheme or whatever. It was just very, very quick turnaround, and it really helped us. I have to agree with Jock a bit, because At the moment, what we are seeing is the lack of communication, as we are a bit confused. Now, initially, there were some confusion about who is eligible for what grants, etc. But then it got cleared gradually. And I think we are kind of in that state again, and it needs to be cleared who's eligible for what and what is going to happen afterwards. So I have to say the initial start was brilliant, and that helped us, particularly companies like us. We were absolutely thankful for that it happened. We could retain our staff. We didn't have to let go of them, which was a big thing. Also, one thing I would say from GAP perspective, now this is somebody with a digital company hat on and startup hat on, because I'm talking to a lot of startup entrepreneurs and groups. And what we feel is that the definitions of who can access support is not taking into consideration, say, startups who are pre-revenue, or say even if somebody was pre-revenue, say in 2019, and had, say, very, very minimal revenue, they were not eligible for the grants initially. So that kind of, I would just request that if you could please keep in mind that the startups and the small businesses, the digital businesses, they need a little bit more specific and probably a customized solution as well in terms of support. But I have to say also, Leo, particularly Leo Fingal, we are not a Leo client anymore because we are in Enterprise Ireland, but I got a call from Leo and said, look, these are the things you have access to. And I really appreciate, I absolutely love working with Leo Fingal because they have supported us from the very first day.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Sohini. Just coming back, Caroline, to the communications piece from Jock. We all watch the news and we're looking at, scores on the board and the number of infections and so on. That's telling us where we are as such. But the point I think Jock was making is where are we going, and clear information for business. And what's your view of the communication process? And yes, the government have done a good job in reacting to supporting businesses in a very, very turbulent time, and literally had to switch on supports overnight. But as we've rolled on for the last years, particularly the last couple of months, there seems to be, from what we can see, a sort of communications gap, we call it.
Yeah, I think one of the points right about the sort of coming from too many sources and really needing to be condensed in, because it's a fluid situation. I would guess that the only way they can do this is by sort of tying openings to cases, hospital, 5 or 6 measures.
Yeah.
So, well, they can't say this is going to happen on the 5th of May, this is going to happen on the 1st of June. This is, what they can say is, as soon as we hit these numbers, we should be able to open this. As soon as we hit these numbers, we should be able to open this. Obviously that's not my expertise on running government, and I know there's so many moving parts, but, being in the hospitality industry, hearing sort of side comments and things like that about your job is very challenging for our workforce. Because they're hanging on every word to sort of see, oh, well, will this happen? Oh, will it, and I can only imagine what it's like for restaurateurs and things like that, where they just have no clarity when it's going to be, and the level of work to gear up to open up. I think one of the big problems was for industries like ours and restaurants, where we geared up, you bring in a whole load of product, it's huge effort to gear up and launch, and not to have enough time to plan that is a problem. And the same with close down, the amount of food wasted because close downs happen so quickly. Now, I understand these things sometimes from a public health reason have to happen quickly, but if they could be planned, it just makes such a huge difference in the waste.
Yeah, okay. Could I just stay with you for a second? We have another question here, and I don't think there's been an event in the last 4 years that somebody hasn't asked the question about Brexit. And so
I know it's the timing not good.
not good, not good. But in relation to yourselves, we take Keelings, obviously it's a concern for your business. What kind of preparations do you make? And I suppose how it started and how it's going, I suppose. Where are you now? I'm sure an organization like yourselves will have prepared as best you could, but I'm sure those vagaries have popped out as you've gone along.
Yeah.
Where are you now?
I think with increased costs. So we could plan all we like, but we couldn't avoid some of the costs. So our costs have definitely increased to get product onto the island of Ireland. Because you're allowed transit product through the UK, we had hoped we would be able to transit some. We pushed a lot off traveling through the UK, which increased its cost. But what we found is when we transited product through the UK, it was just getting delayed. There was just a lot of challenges getting it through the various ports. So unfortunately, by doing it on the 1st of January or the 31st of December, it's the worst weather. So one of the reasons why we tried to bring product through the UK is because ships coming from France in January and February get cancelled because of the weather. So that's been a huge problem for us as well, getting stock. And obviously we can't stockpile. It's very difficult to stockpile strawberries when you're trying to keep a one-day residency in your warehouse. So it's, very much just on time. So that's caused a lot of cost and challenges. I have to say, I feel for our people running it. It's just been incredibly challenging for them, and they've been just amazing. But it's just been really, and a few different things that came out, the rules of origin, there's a number of different sort of little tweaks that came out at last minute, whereby if you bring a container of Spanish tomatoes into the UK, a speciality tomato, and want to bring 2 pallets over to Ireland, there's costs, there's extra duties, there's etc. And you need a whole load of paperwork that you don't need if you brought those tomatoes straight from Spain to Ireland. Yeah. So it's just a whole load of complexities that have come in. We did prepare really well. We have AEO status, which I think is part of why we've managed well. But I would say, somebody who's exporting from Ireland to the UK, all the various checks that have come in Dublin will be coming into the UK on the 1st of April. And it is challenging.
Yeah, okay. And Sohini, if I ask you the question in relation to Brexit, but that have had obviously it's impacted, I'd say, every business in the country.
From our perspective, the number one thing that got affected was the data. We don't know what's going to happen with the UK data, UK users' data. We store everything in the European servers, so there's still no clarity. And what we did was, just to avoid any confusion, we actually did not onboard any UK users. We were supposed to. We actually went in for a partnership agreement with a UK company, but we just stopped that because we didn't want to get into all those new hassle just last year, because there were way too many things to be dealt with, even in Ireland. We also actually were cutting out our non-Irish users because it was becoming very expensive to service them. But the data, we still need clarity on before we go on to onboard any UK users on where the data to be stored, etc. So that's the biggest concern for us. The second thing, what has happened is, it's not only just for us, but also for the whole startup community. It's the access to financing, access to funding. UK was a big market and there for investments, and as you know, Ireland is quite small in terms of getting funding down the line. So that is one area where we are finding it very difficult at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Sohini. Jock, for you, I know you've got a pretty substantial UK business as well.
Yeah, I suppose the worst part for us was pre-Brexit rather than post-Brexit. that's where it was hugely expensive for us. I mean, we were operating on an e-money license out of the UK, and we were passporting that into Europe, and it was obvious from us from the very beginning that that wasn't sustainable. So we took a huge risk, and we applied successfully for an Irish e-money license, which is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland, and that's our European license. But that was massively expensive. It was a huge thing to take on. Also, we have a massive customer base in the SME sector, and the SME sector, because again, uncertainty, business doesn't like uncertainty. As Caroline said, business prefers clarity. And it was very uncertain times, particularly for SME sectors, which affected our business. And people were not bonus was a bad word. People were not saying thank you to their staff as often as we think they should do. But so it was an expensive time, and it was. Having said that, it's here now. It's not hugely. It doesn't hugely affect us because we operate as a profit center here from Ireland. We have a business in the UK which is completely separate, and that's the way we operate globally, because we're in very, very different markets. So in Asia we treat differently to the US, to Europe, to whatever. So, but from time to time, we do have a couple of UK suppliers, and there has been some difficulty in the chain of supply of some things, particularly in the initial stages, but we hope to iron those out. But like Caroline, we made ourselves ready during the early days, and so we were ready for it. And but sure, it's here now, and so we have to live with it.
Yeah, I'll just stay with you for a second, Jock. Just about. Apart from some of the changes you had to do with Brexit and so on, and one of the comments you made earlier about listening to your customers and so on, and that would probably bring you down the road of innovation and new technologies and so on. Can you tell us, what has One4all done, maybe in relation to new technologies or innovation in the last year or so?
Well, I suppose COVID has affected us in two clear ways. One is it's affected us as a business and our staff in particular, but we can talk about that in a minute. But we had been working on digitizing our product, and Sohini there spoke about the power of digital, and yes, it is the future. It's the future for our business. We launched a digital gift voucher. So we allow people now to pick up their phone, download a gift card onto their phone, attach a digital message or even a video message, and then just send that on to your best mate or your granny or your uncle or whoever you want to say happy birthday to or whatever. And they just download it to their wallet, and then using near touch technology, they just go into the shop where they want to use it and touch the payment machine. So that's been huge, and funnily enough, it couldn't have come at a better time, because that's where a huge amount of our business is now going. It's going digital. It's going online, because people haven't been able to use some of our traditional distribution, even though they have been open. But it's very important to have a digital platform. It's so important for us.
So you don't have to wait for the gift card in the post anymore.
No, and so some companies, actually, one of our customers who has something like 2,500 staff, were able to send a thank you and a gift card using the BIK scheme, which is where you can actually give up to €500 completely tax-free. So they were able to send that out on, believe it or not, with a Christmas message on Christmas Eve instantly. So, and everybody got it at the same time with a message from the CEO. So it was really, it's an amazing product. So
great, well done, thank you. Sohini, in your case with Empeal,
yeah,
well, this is a very moving business, I would have thought, but
Yes, indeed. First of all, let me just thank Jock, because I received several of those One4all gift vouchers, and it was absolutely delightful. The videos and the pictures, particularly my dad turned 85 and he received a few as well. So he was absolutely thrilled. For the first time, he saw something like that and he was delighted with it. Thanks very much for that, Pranav.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
For us, actually, as you know, innovation is in our DNA, and that's how we survive. That's the only way we can survive. And our roadmap, innovation roadmap, is all about improving our technology even further. For us, I would say it's what we did during COVID was, again, as we talked to our users and understood what their problems are. The main things what we had to do was, first thing was very basic and rudimentary. We saw a surge in number of users, so we had to improve our system performance. So it is very boring, but it is something which kept our customers, the boring job had to be done as well. In innovation, in terms of innovation, we had to scale up, invest a bit more and scale up. But from our perspective, I think innovation has taken a backseat. Since 2018 to 2020, we have had 4 versions come out of our product. But since 2020 and today, we have not had a version upgrade. And we are really worried. And not only myself, but our team are really worried, because we have tried every single software solution that is available for whiteboarding, for brainstorming, for creating innovative ideas. Unless we're sitting together, it's being very, very difficult for us. And I mean, if there is a product in the market which will allow us to brainstorm together virtually and do the whiteboarding session, whatever is available in the market, I can tell you it's not working. So that will be a great business idea, and we will be the first person to buy it. But definitely innovation is becoming very difficult in a remote working scenario where you are not putting all heads together and just doing an external day or something like that and creating ideas, thinking outside the box. So we are struggling with that bit.
Okay, thanks, Sohini. And Caroline?
Yeah, I suppose there's some things. We were sort of starting slowly on the digital transformation journey, let's say tiptoeing very slowly. I think it's helped speed us up. So obviously working remotely has negatives, but even just getting all the technology to get us to work remotely, we are discovering steps forward in teamwork together, project work together. People are a lot more open to, we're managing our customers now within sort of systems and allowing our customers dial in and see their data and stuff like that. And we're just getting much, much more technical and computer literate as a business. So I think that's been a benefit. Another thing with our HR systems, we've upgraded them and improved them so we can text our people every day. And a huge part for us about keeping our staff safe. They need to feel safe as well, so they know what we're doing. So we're constantly telling our people what we're doing and what's going on. And I think that's helped hugely. So we've invested probably in more technology over the last year than we have previously. And I think that's going to benefit our business in the long term. Yeah. But it is quite challenging. Product innovation, face-to-face stuff, we have found quite challenging.
Yeah, it's always difficult. You're dealing with the product and the customer unless you see the whites of their eyes.
Yeah. We've gotten better at delivering stuff to customers and setting up a call and doing things, but and I think we'll do innovation cheaper in the future by combining face-to-face and digital.
Yeah, but I'll just stay with you for a second. You mentioned the HR system you've put in, but just coming back to probably recruitment, more to the point, retention of staff over the last number of months, and we hear it all the time here that there's issues over staff retention, recruitment. And do you have what initiatives do Keelings have in place in relation to staff retention or recruitment?
Because I have to say, in the very beginning, while I felt the government was really right to put in the payments that they put in, there was concerns that that was going to mean that we were going to have extremely high absenteeism, and people were going to potentially abuse it. And I have to say, I've been so incredibly impressed. We've had very low levels of absenteeism. I have to say, I've been really impressed. The products we're providing are food. All of our people within our business have really taken seriously our role in ensuring food is available for the country. And I suppose what we tried to do was, first of all, provide a safe place to work, that everybody coming into work felt that they were safe and that they were not going to be in a position that they were unsafe at work. And I think that was critical, and an awful lot of work went into that. So the first thing we did was we created a group steering committee, and that steering committee oversaw audits that we did in Costa Rica through an iPad, walking around, checking things, etc. So across all of the businesses, we did audits, safety assessments, etc. And I think that was significant. We also did a number of online surveys, various things, trying to gather people's views of what we were doing. Did they feel safe? Did they, were there any issues to highlight? The other area, we brought in safety champions. So basically we have people walking around just ensuring and identifying if there's a bottleneck spot, which looks like that could be an area that would be of higher risk, that we either change the process or we make sure people have appropriate masking and they can only be there for a certain length of time, etc., etc. So there's been an awful lot of things done, and I think that's what's made a big difference. We have thanked our people as well. People got bonuses, people got different things. But I have to say, our absentee rate, I think in one of our highest ones is 4%. So considering what's going on, and that 4% needed to be out, we were encouraging people, if you have a cold, stay out. Don't come in with a cold. Even if you've been tested and you still have symptoms of a cold, just don't come in, please. And everybody gets paid and it's all okay.
Yeah.
So I've been incredibly impressed with our people's dedication.
Okay, thanks very much, Caroline. Sohini, just for you with your staff and so on, and in relation to recruitment and particularly retention, and what initiatives have you got in place?
Yeah, it's a very sore point, actually. In a startup experience particularly for tech talent retention is a huge issue for not only us as a startup, but also as any startup in Ireland at the moment. A startup experience is hugely important for the employees, and then they get scouted by bigger companies for 70% more salary, which we can never match. And that's a big issue. We have been raising the issue of share options and the tax treatments of it for a long time, and we hope that something will be done now, because it is really becoming ridiculous. We are training these people and then they're leaving for higher salary or bigger company. And particularly during COVID, I can understand they have to pay their bills and they're worried whether the startup will exist or not, and they move to a bigger company. So I don't blame them, but also at the same time, we need to do something about the share options and the tax treatments and helping us to retain the tech talent particularly. From our perspective, what we do is, to be honest, we have very little absenteeism. We actually have to tell people that you need to take a break, because we are very conscious that work-life balance is out of whack for everybody, and particularly if you're working from your kitchen table or from your bed. So we actually do step challenges and stuff as well, so that they're on the ball. And seeing the users walking 40 kilometers a day, we had one of the data analysts who wouldn't walk, but then at the end of that 1 month, he said, I just saw the users walking so much, I felt bad and I went out for walking. So that kind of thing helps. But most importantly, what we understand, myself and my co-founder, I'm 49 years old. I don't know all the technology. My co-founder is 55 and he doesn't know all the technology, and we have to learn from these younger generations. So whoever is coming on board, these tech talents, the project managers, they know and they're much closer to the clients. So we absolutely have to listen to what they say. So giving them the voice to have their impact on where the company is going, how we are dealing with clients, where the product is going. So we have a very open environment where everybody has to give their opinion, and we value everybody's opinion, and that's the main thing which we can do for our employees.
Okay, thanks, Sohini. And Jock, if I came back to you on this, in relation to recruitment and retention of staff, and I'd say a lot of your staff are probably not in the building.
No, we've a couple of fulfillment people in the building, and that's it. Everybody else is working from home. So yeah, and working from home can be great for some people, and it's really difficult for other people, particularly for the younger generation, because they tend to be sharing flats or apartments with other people, which maybe with students, maybe with other working people, and trying to find space to work, and that environment is not easy. So yeah, we spend a lot of time surveying our staff as well, trying to find out what makes it work for them, and we would have regular communications updates. I do a quarterly town hall sort of communication business update to everybody once a quarter, and so that everybody knows what everybody else is doing within the organization. So we might highlight marketing and sales one quarter, we might highlight finance and operations in another quarter, whatever. So people get to know what other teams are doing. So I suppose well-being is a huge part. I know people talk about work-life balance, and but you have to take it seriously. And we found that as well. We found with a lot of our employees that we had to actually ask them to slow down and stop rather than keep going, and take time out for the kids, and take time out for family, for walks and things like that. So we've invested a lot in that, and like Sohini has said there, we've got these walking champions going on, and we've got gym classes and yoga and everything else. But I suppose at the end of the day, it's all about employee buy-in to they understand the difficulties that the business goes through, and I think that if you're open and honest about the business to your employees, and my leadership style would be to empower my team, my management team, because they're working in departments or cells, you could call them, so they have to look after each other, and so each particular cell is looking after each other, which I think is really important. And we haven't given up. We're a big party company. We like to celebrate, and we like to have fun, and so we still have our social gatherings, albeit online. We do have fun. We had Santa Claus dress ups in December, and we've recently had a bit of a game show amongst ourselves, which is a bit of fun too. So
good, great, thanks, Jock. Just coming on to one other issue, and I think it's something that raises its head with every business now, is the cost of doing business in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. And I think more so now since Brexit has kicked in, that we have a competitor outside the European Union on our doorstep, and the cost of running businesses, maybe in the UK or Northern Ireland, is substantially lower, I would have thought, than what they are here. So let's say, Carol, if I came to you first on that, what would your view on that be?
Yeah, I mean, we operate business in the UK as well, and yeah, you see a range of costs significantly lower than in Ireland. I suppose one that has been really challenging over the last number of years has been insurance. And that's probably one that, because we it's all in-house, if you know what I mean, insurance, it's not customers coming on site in general and things like that. So we made the decision about 5 years ago that we were going to go virtually self-insured. We have like a cap, but we've managed to sort of halve our cost of insurance over the last 5 years, which, you know, it was going in a very, very difficult trend. But we've done an awful lot of work. And I think the positive of the work that we've done is we have a lot less accidents. You know, we've really, really reinforced processes and practices. And if somebody isn't following them, there's a proper follow-up to make sure that people do, etc. And then any cases that, you know, are, let's say, not appropriate to be taken, we challenge them, and we can challenge them ourselves, whereas in the past the insurance companies would take them and just settle them.
Yeah.
And I think that's been an improvement in our business cost-wise. So, but it's been a huge investment in resources and effort, etc., to make that happen. But I would say across the board, there's an awful lot of increased costs in Ireland versus other countries. And there's some you can tackle and challenge, and there's others, you know, you're kind of fairly stuck with.
Okay. Thanks, Colin. Yeah, Sohini, and you in relation to that, the one thing is also has come out, sorry, Colin, just for a second, is the insurance issue. That's been insurance costs continuing to rise.
Yeah.
Given the fact that there've been less people in lots of industries on the premises and so on.
Yeah.
It's an issue, and it doesn't seem to be something that's being tackled.
Yeah, and I think that there was a situation where I think that there's been a lot of activity recently to look at the level of settlements, and also the fact that if you took a fraudulent case and it was very easy, it was proved that it was fraudulent and set up on purpose, there was no negative to the person who did that.
Yeah.
So that's been so they're looking to change that. They're looking to change the level of payouts. So in some cases we're 5 to 10 times higher payouts than in other countries in Europe, etc. So, you know, it's been talked about. I think 2012 there was a lot of talk about it, but it hasn't been resolved yet. So from our point of view, we really looked into a lot of what we could do around self-insurance.
Yeah.
But not everybody can do that.
All right, thanks, Caroline. Jock, if we asked you the question about the cost of doing business.
Yeah, I suppose, well, it is an expensive place to do business, but it's a lovely place to do business. It's a great place to live and work. And I wouldn't, I've worked all over the world, and I think this is I wasn't born here, by the way, but it is my favorite place. And I love Ireland to bits. I suppose costs are always increasing and growing. You've got lots of different types of costs, and you've got to be always on top of your costs. And any CEO will tell you that, yeah, you've got to be constantly looking. And so in my view, there's two ways you can do that. One is get yourself a really good CFO and to look after those things and keep you on the straight and narrow as the boss. I suppose systems integration, I suppose, is where you can get real efficiencies. And so if you, instead of trying to bespoke everything, if you try and keep within systems, try and have the same contract for every customer. Try and have, do things, little things. There's lots of little things that you can do instead of trying to bespoke everything. So that's I suppose digitizing everything going forward helps you reduce costs, because otherwise, if you can't reduce your costs, then you have to increase your pricing, and that doesn't go down well with your customers. So
yeah. Great, thank you very much. I just noticed we're running up against the clock now, but I just want to ask, we had quite a few questions have come in, but some have been broadly similar. We've covered some of them during the discussion as it's gone on. one of the questions come in, and maybe ask you, Sohini, first, is that what piece of advice would you give to someone setting up a new business, in particular at this time?
First thing I would do is go and talk to your local enterprise office, because there's huge amount of support when you're setting up your business. And I couldn't have done it. I remember a few years back, my first exposure to the Leo was through the Leo Enterprise Week. And I was sitting there and I was going, I should do this. And that should be the first step. Second thing is, I think before you come up with your own solution, understand what the need of the market is, and what the customer wants. So what we did even before we started building the product, we again talked to at least 250 HR senior management users themselves in India and Ireland, just to understand what is needed. So that before you think of the solution, you need to understand the problem and then think of the solution. These two would be the biggest thing. And then, sorry, the third thing, because we are a digital company, when you're choosing the technology, be very careful what you are choosing, because you might think I'll do away with this piece of technology today because it's cheap, but then going forward, if you're scaling, then it becomes a problem. So from the very beginning, just to give a small example, we went with AWS, although it's a bigger company, much bigger cost, etc. But today we are understanding we can switch on a UAE client or an Indian client, so it's much easier to scale. So think about if you're going into a technology business, think about the technology now.
Okay. Thanks, Sohini. And Caroline, if I ask you, if somebody's going to start a business in these days, would there be a nugget of advice you could give them?
I suppose the one thing, when I've talked to a few people starting businesses, the one thing it goes back to, it's the numbers around really understanding the economic model. So the idea may be great and there might be a really good gap in the market, but to really understand, what it costs you to do, to deliver that, and, how many you're going to have to sell per week in order to make money, etc., etc. So depending on what it is, but that you understand that, you have a runway of money, and to understand what that runway of money is, and are you going to get there to get to a profitable position. And I think that's something some people I've talked to who are starting up are not crystal clear on. So I think getting really clear on that really helps.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And Jock.
Yeah.
Start a business.
Caroline, I didn't start the business. I didn't start One4all, but I was very much a part of it from the early stages. And I had a great mentor in the CEO, and Michael Dawson. Learned a lot from him. I hope he's not listening to this. But what I have learned, though, is that starting a business, the most important thing is having the right team, having the right people around you, be they big or be they small, depending on the size of your business. But have people around you that you trust implicitly, because they're your family when you're starting a business. Really, that's how you've got to look at it. Because most entrepreneurs live their business, and if you don't have the right people around you, it'll be a disaster. The second thing is always be innovative. You start out, like Sohini said, her business has changed so much since she started, and I think any successful business is about innovation. You've got to constantly be reinventing yourself, otherwise you become obsolete, and that's really, really important. The third thing is excellence in your customer service, and excellence in the product that you deliver. Because if you want to scale your business, and every business should think about how they're going to scale. Because if you don't scale your business, other people will come into the market and take it away from you. You've got to be always growing your business. So you've got to be thinking of global excellence, not just excellence in your own market, but how is your product going to look in other markets, in other cultures? And then the last thing is, a leader has to be inspiring. has to constantly inspire their workforce. And if you're not being challenged or encouraging your team, I constantly encourage my management team to challenge me. And that's where I find my inspiration, in when people put me on the spot and make life difficult for me. And that's what keeps me alive. And that's what wakes me up in the morning and keeps me going. And it's a part of the business that I really enjoy. And that finally, then I would say, and it's really important, enjoy your business. If you don't get up in the morning and look forward to going to your business and dealing with your employees and staff, then you're in the wrong business. And that's really, really important too.
Thanks, Jock. Just while we're on that subject, and it's been a big issue, and you touched on it briefly earlier on, about some events you have at the staff, like the Santa Christmas, and you have you meet up for drinks or whatever, albeit online and socially distanced, of course. And and especially with a business leader, everybody in their home, they have their own anxieties and issues, and they don't like the lockdown and the local bar is not open, or the sport is not on. Like, what do you do to sort of take a bit of time out to get you ready to go to work? It must be something.
Well, we all have our different ways, and I really do appreciate what people are going through. In another life, I'm a volunteer with St. John Ambulance Service and the local community first responders group here in Rush, where I live. So I've seen people at the worst of times, right? So just before they're carted away, maybe in an ambulance or whatever. So I understand how stress can affect people. And sorry, where am I going with this now? But I suppose, what do we do as leaders? Well, what I do is I like to lead from the front, and certainly I'm online. I have an online gym called Bulletproof Dad for people of a certain age, and I do a class 3 times a week. I try and get my 10,000 steps in every day, and I love cooking. So and they're all things that are not related to your business. So that do anything that's not related to your business outside of when you're not doing your business, if you know what I mean, to de-stress. So that can be anything. It can be by the way, it can be transporting a patient in an ambulance that's highly stressful, but it's a different type of stress. So it doesn't matter what it is, whatever you want to do outside of your business to take you away and give you time to think. What I do, and I'm an early starter, as you know, Anthony.
Yeah.
And so I spend the first hour before anybody goes on Zoom thinking about what I'm going to do that day.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Sohini?
It's an interesting question because we actually ran a poll within our users as to what would be their replicating commute to work. And a lot of people came back, I go for cycling or walking, or somebody said meditation, go for the gym, etc. For me, I think what I do generally is I would absolutely look at how I structure my day, because I start with the 10 to-do list. By the end of the day, it becomes 30, and the 10 I started with becomes the last 10 of those 30. So we have a coach called Mind Coach, Maura Dunn, and she told me that if your things get pulled down in the list, just keep it in the list. So I'm trying to do that, and that's one of the things I do now. The other thing, just from a stress relief perspective, because we are as a team also, we are constantly talking to each other and saying how your stress is, and we don't use the word stress, but how you're coping and things like that. And I actually get more ideas from the team rather than what's in my head. But cooking is one of the very common one that comes up. Trying new recipes.
Good. And Caroline?
Yeah, I suppose I do a little bit of that. I have a whiteboard in my house now. And so every morning I do a bit of a whiteboard of the plan or what's going on, or I have at the back of it, I have a couple of long-term projects. So it folds over and comes back again with today and long-term. So I kind of enjoy that. It sets me up for the day well. A couple of things that I've loved doing. I've gotten to spend a little bit more time. I'm on the board of 3 charities, but one is we're looking to eliminate the practice of FGM in Somalia, and it's amazing the progress we've managed to make even in this time. So there's been a lot of activity moving. We're launching a program called the Dear Daughter campaign, which we think will have a significant impact, and it's getting well funded. There's another project we're working on, Valid Nutrition, which produces a food. It's developed a protein that doesn't require animal products, so it can be produced in Africa. And there's currently 160 million children in Africa whose lives are stunted by malnutrition. And we're hoping to launch some products. So that's sort of progressing a little bit more slowly during COVID, but I've managed to get some time to do a bit more work on it. So that's all been good. And then there's a number of projects we're working on in Ireland. I'm on the board of Social Entrepreneurs Ireland, a group of amazing people who, you know, it's tough starting up a business, but try starting up a social business. It's incredibly tough. But they're amazing people working in that, and they give you so much energy after you've met them and talked through some of their challenges. You come back and look at your own and go, yeah, not so bad. And then I have a 4-year-old, so at the moment we're going through a bit of a dragon phase. So we do run around the house at 7 o'clock in the evening pretending to be dragons, and then read stories about dragons and various things, which is good. And then on a Friday evening, I have a group of ladies, and we all, well, actually, no, there's a couple of men drop in as well, but there's a group of friends. It's the Friday night Don't Drink Alone Zoom call. So we're all allowed a glass of wine or 2 with our Zoom on a Friday evening.
Yeah, excellent. That's important too.
Exactly.
So guys, I'm conscious of the fact that we're up against the clock here time-wise, and there's lots of people who are on the call here that obviously want to get back to the day job, including yourselves. I'd just like to say a very heartfelt thank you to Caroline, to Sohini, and to Jock. It was absolutely excellent. Well done. Well done. And thank you.
And Anthony, thanks a million for the opportunity. And if I could just remind everybody that it's Mother's Day in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you very much, everyone.
It's not hard to understand, Jock, how One4all were so successful and got from where you were to where you are. Even the last minute, he's still selling.
Exactly. And they go perfectly, those cards would go perfectly with your heart-shaped punnet for your mother as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You're dead right, Caroline.
So anyway, listen, thanks very much. As you know, the Chamber here helps businesses of all sizes to grow. And we work very closely with our local enterprise office, with Oisín and the team there. I want to thank Oisín and the local enterprise office for their support and for allowing us to be part of their Enterprise Week. But I think it's very much Oisín's view that it's all our Enterprise Week. And I want to thank him for that. I just want to say we've a couple of activities coming up in the next week or so. Again, next week we have a virtual networking event. And then a couple of weeks later, on the 22nd, 23rd and 24th of March, it's a new initiative for us and Fingal County Council. We've got local area business forums for all of the businesses in Fingal relative to the areas that you're located. So for example, on the 22nd of March, we have Balbriggan Rush, Lusk and Swords, and the businesses there. Blanchardstown, Mulhudder and Castleknock on the 23rd, and Holt and Malahide areas on the 24th. And we're engaging there with the Chief Executive, the local authority, Anne-Marie Farrelly, and the Head of Economic Development, Tourism there, Emer O'Gorman. And they'll be attending all of those calls, as will Oisín. And we also do a lot of training with our SkillNet program. We have a very effective SkillNet for businesses in Fingal. It's managed by Fergal Malone here in the Chamber. I want to thank my own colleagues, David, you can't see him, but he's here. We all saw him earlier on this morning for organising the event. Another magnificent job. And thank you to everybody for joining us. We hope to see you soon. Stay safe and slán go fóill.